Hope everybody's doing okay. Everybody get some food? Okay, we're going to get started here. Sponsors for today's meeting. Our food is sponsored by our annual conference, LastCon. Speak a little bit more about that here in a few minutes. And facilities, thanks to National Instruments for providing the space for us to have this meeting. I'm Tiana Chandler, the chapter leader. We also have listed up here the other chapter leaders, the coordinators of the different areas. And I just want to mention here in terms of, and I have a place where we're talking about volunteering. And if you have any interest in helping with any of these particular areas, please contact the coordinators, because we certainly would appreciate any additional help, since we all have day jobs and it's a lot of effort to try to coordinate these things. Today's meeting is eligible for an hour CPE. If you need to have some proof, if you could just email me directly, I can send you a certificate. And then speaking of supporting OWASP, there, as mentioned, volunteer opportunities for leadership, as well as if you are interested in doing any speaking at either the meetings, or maybe even have some other things that might be something we could talk about in terms of providing other information or educational opportunities for our community. And if you shop on Amazon, the smile.amazon.com, you can select OWASP as a way of giving back to the organization. These meetings are free and open, so membership is not required. However, we do encourage you to, in terms of giving back to the community, there's different options for membership, and you can go to austin.owasp.org and look there for more information. And Paul Griffiths, he is our membership coordinator. If you have any questions about membership, you could just talk to him. He's raising his hand right now, so. We have a weekly study group, and I believe they may be getting close to wrapping up the one topic on the malware unicorn RE101. But Matt Pardo is our education coordinator, and he may be announcing soon if there's any new topics that may be coming up. And you can reach out to him if you have any questions about that.
So we took a vote, and I think we voted on a cloud security topic. It looks like we're going to do the cloud security engineer course, either from Amazon or the Cisco or certified cloud security engineer, CCS, whatever. So that's basically what the group is going to focus on going forward. And we're in the process of selecting the book and the study materials, and that should materialize here in the next week or so, I think is what we came to. We're starting chapter 1. Okay. CCSE. Sorry.
Yeah, and right, yeah, I think they'll probably set up a new Slack channel specifically for that. And austin.owasp.org, we have a tab there on that page that has information about the study group, and I'll make sure I get that updated so people can go there to get more information. LastCon 2018 is coming up here in several months from now. Call for presentations. The deadline is actually tonight. So if you were interested in presenting at LastCon, the CFP site is still up for now, and you should be able to go there and submit your topic. We should be trying to get those selected in short order or right after that, and let other people know which topics are selected. Call for trainers is still open. Matt Pardo's working on that, so we do have several training topics submitted, and we're going to go through those and select those as well. I was going to look and see if Bank and our conference coordinator is here, but to see if you had any other thing to say, but we'll just move on here. Upcoming chapter events. We did actually have one training event that Matt Pardo had set up for PowerShell training, and that seemed to be a pretty good success. So we're going to look and see what other opportunities we can do to offer that. Ideally, maybe another one this year. And the Austin Security Professionals Happy Hour will be coming up on August 9th, and that's going to be at Baby A's on Stone Lake Boulevard. Other upcoming local events, just have a few listed here. And I believe someone else wanted to mention, here we go, hold on a second, wanted to mention another event.
Hey, this is Seth Robertson. Wanted to speak to you about an upcoming event sponsored by the ISSA. We're conducting a public cybersecurity war game exercise. And so at this event, we're going to have a fictional company with participants on the stage in all different tech and management roles. And we're going to see how they respond when a breach occurs and as it worsens, to see if they can maintain composure and methodically implement their incident response plan. So there will be a dry run at Secure Austin on Tuesday, September 11th in the evening. That's downtown by the Google office, but you can park for free. There's going to be the Prime event at the Initech conference on Tuesday, October 2nd. And so what I'm spreading the word about is partly if you want to be an attendee, look up both of those events, and we'd love to have you. We're going to be giving away all the materials we use to conduct the exercise to the attendees to bring back to their organizations to launch a cybersecurity exercise program. So it's a great way to get that. In addition, as an attendee, you're going to be a participant too. You'll be given a dossier like everyone else. You'll be a customer or an investor at the company that's being breached. If you choose, you can use your mobile device to submit input, and we're going to let the audience select their own input to be integrated into the exercise based on how the participants do. If they do well, we pick good feedback. If they do poorly, we pick bad feedback. And we're probably going to have some prizes for people whose input is selected too. So another reason to go. So additionally, if you know people with background and experience like customer support, public relations, engineering, DevOps, security, etc., speak to me, because we're looking for participants to be on that stage at both the dry run and at the main event in September and October. And we're looking for a few more security experts for our hot wash debrief panel that will occur after the event. So just be in touch with me. I'll be here after the event today. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Also, I like to take this opportunity to see if anybody has any job announcements, any openings that may have. Okay. So now I'd like to present Marcus Carey, Introduction to Electron Security.
Hello, hello. Okay. Okay, can you hear me? Is this microphone on?
Down.
Okay, is that better? Can everybody hear me all the way over there too? All right, sweet. Thanks, Josh. So funny enough, this is my first OWASP here in Austin. I've been here about 5-6 years, so I apologize for not joining it. Dang, this is popping. I've been to some other meetings and it's not as many people, and this is a monthly meetup, so this is pretty impressive. Congratulations, you're doing a great job. So let me, so you can see my screen. So I'm about to go over. I don't have any slides. I heard somebody whispering earlier that they don't like salesy talks or anything like that. So I'm not gonna sell you on anything. I'm gonna probably show you about 5 or 6 open source projects, and hopefully I can tie them all together. All right. And so at Carey, we're actually releasing an open source project next month, and I'll share that with you as well. So plenty of open source, plenty free stuff to chew on, and I'll be talking about that. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'll tell you why I'm talking about Electron today, and all that stuff. So so if you haven't heard of me before, so I'm Marcus Carey. Some people may know me because I founded a company locally called Carey. I founded that company about 4 years ago. Besides that, my background is I'm a Texas boy, born and raised in a small town called Marlin, Texas. Anybody heard of Marlin? Everybody been to Marlin? Only one person. Same guy every time too. So very small town. I grew up chopping wood, and when I was young, they had an outhouse and propane tank and all that stuff. So I tell people I'm so country. When I come into a room, thank God I'm a country boy starts playing. So so when I was 18, I joined the U.S. military. I joined the United States Navy, or as we like to refer to in the Navy as the world's finest Navy. And at there, I went into cryptography, and which is pretty cool because I'm just a little country boy from Marlin, Texas, and then all of a sudden I get thrown into all this super secret. I can't tell you, or I'll kill you. I can neither confirm nor deny world. So, being 18, when I joined the military, my only requirement was that I work with computers. I had saw war games with Matthew Broderick, and I wanted to be a hacker. And lucky enough, I got an opportunity to kind of do that stuff because I didn't even know what I was. So my recruiter in the Navy, he couldn't even tell me what I did because it was classified what I did in the military. And so he's like, I don't know what we're doing, but it's going to be computers. And cool enough, so I went to Carey Station, which is where they train the signals intelligence people in the Navy, and I did all kind of really cool stuff. Any prior military in here? Any vets? One? Cool. What's up? What branch were you in? Oh, dang it, I feel sorry for you. All right, cool. All right, sweet. So they call the Army computers are called an abacus. So Army Navy we have to do that to each other. Don't feel bad for him. All right, so anyway, went to the Navy, got to do all kind of internetworking and stuff. Finished up my Navy career. I did 8.5 years in, and I finished it up at Fort Meade, working for the National Security Agency, which is pretty dope. So at NSA, I got to do all kind of cool stuff, networking, network defense. At night, I actually worked on, if y'all familiar with the San Antonio area, y'all probably heard of Will Group before. You heard of them before? They created this thing called Cisco. Well, Cisco acquires them. It was an early San Antonio security startup, and that product became NetRanger. So if you've been around long enough to know what NetRanger is, like one of the first enterprise IDSs. So at NSA, they buy everything, and I got a chance early in my career to work with every security product, every switch, every router, every piece of crypto gear. So it taught me a lot. So the military does make you grow up fast and learn fast too. All right, so got out the military, worked for Computer Science Corporation for a while, where I supported NSA. Then I did a little bit of work for Lockheed Martin. And then I took a job with this company called Rapid7. And so Rapid7, I knew they had positions in because I'm from Marlin, which is about 80 miles north of right here. And so I wanted to get back to Texas. So when I saw Rapid7 had a job opportunity, and they said you can either go to Boston or Austin, and all expenses paid. We'll move you to Austin, Texas. I was in. I had so some people say, you know, I'm not from Texas, but I got here as fast as I could. So that was my way of getting back as fast as I could. So Rapid 7 brought me back. I think I worked about 2 years, almost 2 years for Rapid 7, and I learned a lot there. So I actually contributed to the Metasploit project. HD Moore is my boss, and I learned a lot of stuff about products and all that stuff there. So I guess my experience is a couple of things I'm going to talk about today is my experience a little bit as a founder, because when I founded the company, I wrote all the software myself. So from a developer perspective, I actually played around a lot. So I wrote everything front end, back end myself, and then like last year, I picked up and started playing with Electron, and now we actually rewrote everything we do in Electron, and I'll show you that stuff. So I'll show you. I'm going to show you what Electron starts with and what you can build, because like as a security person, I always tell people I love for people to build their own stuff, and I love for people to build better stuff. And so when I look at Electron, I look at it's a way to build better tools, because it's awesome from a user UX perspective. What's cool about it, and I'll get into it, is as long as you know JavaScript, HTML, CSS, you can do Electron. But there are ramifications, because if something can execute JavaScript, that's going to open up a bag of worms. And so what we'll do is we'll talk about Electron. I'll give you an introduction to Electron, and then I'm going to talk about the security stuff related to Electron, and then I'm going to talk about a couple other projects related to our open source project that we're releasing. Excuse me. We're releasing this open source project next month, at the end of next month. So here we go. So I don't have any slides, because the internet has all the data that I need. So Electron, you can actually go to electrongs.org or .com, and you can actually pick up Electron and see what it is. I'll tell you the basics, because I don't want to read to you while I go along. So I'll just tell you the basics on why Electron is a big deal. So does anybody use Slack in here? A lot of people. Anybody use Atom? Anybody use VS Code, Visual Studio Code? Visual Studio Code is actually pretty dope. I don't know if y'all if you coding. VS Code is my thing. That's my jam now. So all those products that I just mentioned are written in Electron. All of them are written in Electron. And why do people write those apps in Electron? Is because Electron is a cross-platform. It's a way to write code once and compile it for each operating system. So you write your code once, you compile it for Windows. You can have it, you refer to a certificate, and it installs it, and it runs on any version of Windows, pretty much. Same thing with Linux. It runs on several versions of Linux, Ubuntu desktop. It also runs on a Mac as well. So you get cross-platform support for any application that you build. So if you're thinking about building your own security tool or whatever, it will be a great thing to look at, because you write it once, compile. It's like air gap for computers. It's pretty dope. It also has database stuff in it. There's a MongoDB inspired thing called NEDB. That's what we use at ThreatCare. So you can have a database and all that stuff too. It's not a relational database. It's like Mongo. So I'll go all this stuff. So anyway, so you can actually get started with Electron App by downloading the app right here on their repo, Electron Quick Start. So I'm gonna show you how this looks. You can just clone this and you can run it. So you have to install Node, then you can install Electron as well. Oh, a couple other big things about Electron. Electron is maintained by the GitHub team, right? And GitHub just got acquired by who? Yeah, it's a firm indication that this is not going anywhere anytime soon. So Node is really popular already, and so this is Node. It's a combination of Node and Chromium. So so Node's not going anywhere. And JavaScript's not going anywhere. So this is a good something to be in. We do a little bit of consulting, and people have requested that, do y'all know Node? They're like, nobody knows Node. Chromium, so what Electron is, it started off as Atom. I think they call it Atom script or something like that, because Atom was built in it, because GitHub wrote Atom, and then they created its own project. Excuse me. All right, so you can download that, and then what's cool about it is you can go in here. So the screen's still on. Sweet. All right, going in here to run an Electron app, you just have to. All right, cool. I'm gonna pretend like I didn't run it before. So there's two things when you download this, and I encourage you to play with it. The first thing is you need to do an NPM install. And what that does, it tells me it's up to date because I already ran it. What that does is it grabs all the dependencies and it installs it for you, right? So everything that it needs to run, this particular app that we downloaded, and then every time you require something, you might have to do an NPM install. So NPM stands for Node Packet Manager. So it's just like how you update, you build these dependencies, and then you can require the dependencies. From a security perspective, what's interesting about this, just like any supply chain issue, you're going to run into problems where somebody might have a bad dependency, and you might be using that dependency. So from the first thing, from an electronic security perspective, if people are using bad packages, then that might indicate something for you. But there's something pretty cool about Electron that that makes it kind of harder to hack, I would say. Well, the recommendation is if you follow the rules, just like anything, if you follow the rules and you have all your JavaScript local, it'll be harder to hack. But anytime you're taking user input or downloading information from other place, that's when you get in trouble, right? That's why we have to worry about input validation and all those different things. Pure OWASP stuff, OWASP top 10 stuff, if you're doing that. But most of the time, what good is an app unless you can put something into it, right? So I'm going to go over a little bit over input validation as well. But remember, so the first thing we do here is you do the NPM install. We're bringing libraries in from third parties that have created stuff, and there might be vulnerabilities in that. So after you do the NPM install, hey, so forgive me, since I've never been to one of these meetings, I don't know if y'all, this is a normal presentation. I'm just doing markets, so am I doing good? All right. Yes. All right, cool. So what she said, I'm gonna repeat it. Roger that. So if I can make it a little bit bigger, hopefully I can do that without blowing something up. All right, cool. So inside here, you see this is the app that I was talking about. This is the app, Visual Studio Code. This is free from Microsoft. It's awesome. This is written in Electron actually. So this shows you the power of the app. And like I said, if you use Slack, a lot of people use that every day. This tells you how powerful it is. So in here you see a couple things. What's cool, instantly on this thing here, you see it says process. So process allows it to, so this is Chromium and Node together. So what this means is your browser, essentially, it's a browser, and I'm going to bring this up by doing npm start so you can see what the output is. So this is Hello World. This is actually added something on here real quick. I just added a browser. I added some forms on here. But if you see here, those process tags. This is from the Bootstrap thing. So right above that thing there, you can see it says process versions node, process versions Chrome, process versions Electron. So the current version, this is the current version 2.0 of Electron. So you see it says Chromium here. So this borrows from the Chromium. This borrows from Chromium. Of course, Chromium is what Chrome is based on too, right? What's interesting about this is that every time there's a Chrome update, your app essentially needs to be updated, right? Because you're essentially running old stuff. And so some of the bugs like related to Chrome and things of that nature will appear in your app because you're building on Electron. But what the Electron team does is it tries to move as fast as possible to patch this every time. So new Chromium comes out, they go through and patch it. However, they're just putting bare bones Chromium on here, just essentially enough stuff to render the web page, right? However, you're free to put in as much as you can as well, as much as you want to. So this is like a light version of Chrome, I would say. And also, and also Node as well. So basically, there's this like it takes about a couple of weeks for the updates to happen. So if you're building stuff with it, or even if you're using, and this is something a lot of people be slipping on. So say if you are using Slack and if a big bug gets announced in Slack in Chrome or something, you probably also have that bug on your Slack app or any other apps that you use. So that's something to pay attention to. A lot of people don't look at that. So what's cool about this in a simple app, what you could do is you can open this up, and I'll try to zoom this in. Is you have the ability to toggle developer tools here. But these developer tools are way better than developer tools on a regular browser. Because what you have here is you have access to Node here. So if I type in something like process platform, it tells me I'm running, it says Win32, which is technically not correct. I'm actually running a 64-bit processor. But for all intents and purposes, you can whatever platform you're on, you can recognize that. What's cool about this, and what we do with this, is since we actually do a lot of system calls in our software, so we can make a determination of the platform here, and like, okay, if it's a Mac, run this command. If it's a Windows box, run this command, and all that stuff, which is pretty handy. So you can also do stuff like execute code. This is where I'm going to have to. So basically, you can create child processes and look like at stuff like this. So I'm gonna go to the thing. You can actually create. You can do all these different commands. Like anything that you have access to from a system perspective. And so this is one of the dangerous things. So if you can actually pass some kind of executable code and somebody is processing that code as executable, this is just like a web app where you can pass data to it and it just runs the code. Just going to execute whatever you tell it to do. So even though this is, I wouldn't technically call this app a web server, but it's a node running under a browser. So you have a lot of the same things where you can do injections and all kind of other stuff. So the recommendation is do not take information from untrusted sources. Matter of fact, compile all your JavaScript. So if you have the Chrome, what Slack does, for instance, and actually what we do as well, is Slack has all the code, because you can use Slack and stuff in the web. All that stuff is in the freaking app. Because what happens is you don't want people to do man in the middle or any other thing like that, and to be able to intercept those communications. And don't execute anything from the web. So there's actually a nice little checklist I want to go down in a little bit to tell you what and what not to do regarding these applications. So like I said, I'm always encouraging people to build their own stuff. But another thing is, like, we're all security professionals in here, so you can actually help other people secure this stuff too. So a couple of things, right? We went over this already. I'm gonna just recap real quick. Are your dependencies up to date, right? That's an important thing. So if your customer is trying to write an Electron app, and you want to make sure that they're not downloading any code and executing it from the internet, because that could be bad, right? How many people think that's bad? So hopefully y'all not in food coma yet. All right, so I'm gonna go over Electron. Let me go. I'm gonna just go through this real quick. I'm not gonna read it word for word, but I'll give you some insight where. So if you go to Electron, and there's the URL up here, Electron Security MD. Of course, that means Markdown. So let's go through some of the things that it says. What was that? Let me. All right, here it talks about some of the stuff I was talking about earlier, about if there's a Chromium issue, there might be a thing, and they update it as soon as they're possible. So the people that are main core developers for this are at GitHub, and technically they're Microsoft employees. So I totally believe that this is just going to get bigger and bigger, and most apps that you use are probably going to be some kind of combination of this, because you can do anything in it. And the fact is, it's cross-platform, as I said before. So here it goes. Only load secure content. That makes sense. Everybody here is OWASP related to. I'm in the right crowd. They understand why you don't do this. And it tells you some examples of good and bad behavior. So disable node integration for remote content. So anytime you're bringing in content to this app, you definitely don't want to execute it. And if you do have to execute it for some reason, because there's always exceptions, right? It seems like anytime you want to do something cool, it's going to violate a security rule, right? So you want to escape or whatever you need to do. Be very careful with remote content. It talks about content isolation. Many of these things are the same kind of thing right here. Handle session permission requests for remote content. It's all talking about remote content. Do not disable web security. Basically, there's some built-in stuff that allows you to do. TSP. This is kind of standard web stuff as well that everybody in here probably knows. Override and disable eval. Pretty standard. And there are some other things that basically everything, all these rules in here are related to taking some content from somebody, from some untrusted source. It's pretty much input sanitization. All these rules on here are saying how you could kind of hose yourself. So that's the rules from here, right? Now, because you can, like, if you think about it, and I showed you. So if you look at this app itself, and this app that you're looking at, this VS Code is a Chromium app. So you see how rich and amazing this is, because with Chromium, with this application, you can import files. You can edit these files. You can do all these different things. So just imagine how much validation that this app has to do. So everything is showing up here. There has to be some kind of validation to it, and it has code. So I mean, I think they're like, wow, this is kind of like playing with fire. This is like Inception. You're editing JavaScript with JavaScript. So everything in here is CSS. This is like a regular web app that we're normally used to checking out or writing, but now you have file system access. That file system access, processor access, all you can access all the things, right? This is like cheat codes. I wish they had this a long time ago. All right, so that's that's that piece. Now I'm going to get a little bit into like other open source projects that if you haven't heard of, that you can check out. And then I'm going to show you how we kind of built stuff in using open source stuff as well, right? So how many of y'all heard of this MITRE ATT&CK framework thing? Is anybody actively using it in their organization now? And so this takes a little bit of step, and we're talking about more like corporate enterprise security, but this is the thing, and it's only going to get more prevalent. I expect everybody's going to be working with this in some capacity. So what it is MITRE, they're the people behind a lot of things like CVEs and all that stuff. So what they've done here is they've actually set up this matrix for how attacks happen to your network in your enterprise, right? And it's pretty dang good because it handles a lot of stuff, and they update this all the time. So they break it down to all these different things. Y'all probably heard of the cyber kill chain. The cyber kill chain, is owned by Lockheed Martin. So every phase of like an intrusion that can happen from a network security perspective is documented in here, and it kind of gives you some context of how it works, right? So we work with a lot of companies, and some of the bigger companies are using this to define how they secure their network. They're going down this list and are saying, can we detect this? Can we defend this? Can we detect this? So going through this is a really useful exercise to see where you are from a traditional what people will call a kill chain type perspective. Can you see this stuff? Can you act upon it, or anything of that nature? So when we started the company, we were kind of trying to do the attack simulation. That's what our company is known for. So from an open source perspective, it's pretty cool because what you see is like when you see there's a need for security stuff, you'll start seeing stuff pop up on the open source market in GitHub and all that stuff. So what we've noticed over the last 3 years is that fundamentally, I believe that network security has switched from network-based defense mechanisms to endpoint mechanisms. So basically, and we see people like CrowdStrike and Cylance and people that are competitive with them. Those are the companies that are blowing up and getting market share. If you don't have them, everybody's buying it. 3 years ago, everybody wanted a Palo Alto firewall or something of that competitive nature. But it seems like the shift now is on the endpoint piece. And this MITRE ATT&CK framework is mostly related to endpoint detection. Can you detect any of these things, right? So what we started seeing from this attack simulation piece is we started seeing people, and let me see. We started seeing people like Chris Gates. Chris Gates is a friend of mine. He created this thing called Meta, which is an open source product. It's an open source project, and what he's doing here is he's imitating the endpoint compromises through this open source project. So he works at Uber. They open sourced it, made it MIT license, which is it's pretty cool. Some of y'all might know Chris from around the hacker scene. What's interesting about this is, so basically what Chris did is he took this MITRE thing and he went in here and what he did is he actually created these YAML files that serves as configuration, and he created what he called purple actions. So basically purple team is like a term that a lot of people are using now. So what Chris did, and you see Red Canary is another open source project. What they're doing is they're going through and they're trying to iterate the MITRE techniques. As you see that technique there is T1136, and it says credential access bash history. So basically here's all this stuff that looks like a bad guy. Now some endpoint stuff, some corporate endpoint stuff could see this. You probably would have to have something paid for to see some of this stuff. Anybody know some free stuff that does it pretty well? How can if somebody executed some on an endpoint, is there an open source project to use for that? Did y'all know of? Nope. So what are some corporate versions of something like that y'all use? Anything? You don't want to say no brands? Okay, cool. Yeah. So some of the people, yeah. So what they do is they pretty much monitor the history to see what's written on a network. We tell a lot of people investing money into doing that. So with this project, this meta project, you can go through and do this. It is all command line and all that stuff. And also, like, the Red Canary thing is pretty cool. So Red Canary has this thing called Atomic Red Team, another open source project. So this is it, Atomic Red Team. So if you go in here, I'm surfing around. So if you go in here, you'll see this YAML. So they have their own format too. So you'll see dir and all these different things. This is a little bit more verbose, and they actually put the commands out like that. So this is pretty cool too. So it basically both of those projects are using YAML to image. So what's cool about this is, like, if you invested in endpoint protection stuff, because these live on web servers. We have customers. They got big Amazon farms, and they're trying to put those endpoint stuff out there. So what we did is we have an open source project that we're going to be releasing next month, where we're trying to consolidate and create a way to get all these things into one format, right? Everybody wants to, like, everybody has a different kind of format. So since we love JavaScript, we love Node, what we're doing is we're creating something that this is what we're creating. We call it Threaten. I haven't created a nice backronym for it. So if you look in here, what we're doing in here is we're doing a similar kind of thing, but and we're actually consolidating all these different ways into simple JSON with all the metadata, with all the different things like that. And so basically there was, like, I think there's like a number of people that are doing these things, and so what we're trying to do is we're trying to consolidate them all into one repo, and that's what we're calling Threaten. And that's how it looks. Now, So what's cool about this, it makes it super easy to create attacks from an attacker perspective. And so, because you can just say, okay, cool, this APT did X, Y, Z, and then you wanna imitate that. So you can go in and you can use the right canary thing, use the meta thing, and you can imitate the commands, the whatever thing it did, or you can use this format where we're open sourcing this. It's going to be MIT, so anybody can use it as they want to. We're pretty excited about that. And to couple with that, we're releasing a free product too, and it's not a product fetch at all, but just to be able to run this open source stuff. So you can run as many as you want to, and create these attacker things on your endpoints, because I think that this is the endpoint thing. I think it's here to stay, and I even see like bigger companies like the Palos and Cisco investing and going downstream and buying big companies. Splunk is doing that too. So these big companies are going downstream, and everybody's trying to live on the endpoint now. Anybody agree with that or not? Think that's right? Cool. So that's that piece. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually show our product, because I want to show it, and it's not a product pitch. I want to show you how the end game looks. So we went through Electron. Is that okay? But I want to quickly show it, just how it operates. It's a demo. So basically, so what I'm demonstrating here is coming from bare bones Electron, right, to looking at these attack simulations and all that stuff. And like I said, we're open sourcing that bit. So just like, and I'm gonna show you just like I did before. I have to open this up real quick. So I'm gonna open it up. So this is how essentially you go from this is how you go from this free open source framework, Electron, to actually trying to build a security product into it. And again, open sourcing some of these things. Like if I say exfil, you can go in there and you can just do an exfiltration. So that's basically taking those free files, the open source repo, and it's just running those things. And also, what's cool about this is that you can take those things and you can put them in any kind of order you want to. So that's it. So what I've shown you there is that what's cool about that is that some of those calls and stuff that we're making are using native calls. You can create your own TCP sockets. You can create web sockets. You can do HTTP calls, HTTPS calls. So essentially, if you wanted to write like your own burp suite or something like that for web app testing, or if there's a certain number of things you do from a scripting perspective, you could absolutely just throw that stuff in here in Electron, and off you go. And I encourage people to make tools and to build stuff. And essentially, I think that a lot of security people, like down in the weeds, you're always building tools, you're always building stuff anyway, like little scripts. And so why not just throw a little web interface on that and click a button and it runs? So yeah, that's basically most of the talk. Basically shows you Electron, security concerns. Many of the security concerns are just the same as web apps. I encourage you to dig in and try to build your own Electron apps, because if you build the apps, you can actually defend them better, is what I've always said. But are there any questions on Electron?
So I'm a big fan of using JavaScript in more places and kind of simplifying to use, you know, a single language. Did you have any concerns in May with the big Electron vulnerability that was disclosed in, and you know, any implications on the architecture as a whole, and the potential for that was a remote code execution vulnerability, serious vulnerabilities in the future?
Yeah. So there is always a way to shoot yourself in the foot when it comes to developing these apps in Electron. I don't. So here's the deal. Remember I said the whole have everything locally on the machine if possible. So it doesn't. If you're not ingesting any kind of remote code or any kind of new zero day that pops up in Chrome, in Chromium or whatever, you're not gonna. You can't. There's no way to input that data into the system. So it doesn't affect you if you're not pulling stuff off the web. So I would say, like, and that's why I say, even from a man in the middle perspective, that's when people can own you. Like if you're pulling, if you're doing GET requests and executing that code, that's when you're gonna get bit in the butt. So the big recommendation is, do not. You can't really trust information that you pull down. Like off the internet, even if it's HTTPS, somebody could be in the middle. So that's what I recommend. Do not download. Don't try to download. Don't try not to execute stuff off the internet.
Great. And so the second question in these new full stack arrangements, if you will, or recipes, another popular one's React, React Native, GraphQL.
So,
and I just want to get your opinion if you might compare or contrast Electron to React, to those three technologies from either the software engineer's perspective, the DevOps perspective, and going serverless, or the security engineer's perspective. A couple of things that stand out to me immediately: React Native, you being able to port applications to iOS and Android, and then being indistinguishable from Swift or Java written natively. And you know, I don't know that Electron has a query language. I think it's using more of a standard Mongo driver, and it's sophisticated as GraphQL, which is this beautiful, elegant language. So, but I just want to get your opinion from the software engineer, the DevOps, or the security on that compare and contrast.
Yeah. So the big thing that I kind of like wrap my head around is, like, when you talk about full stack, it's like a lot of people. So MVC frameworks are kind of like super popular, and so so Ruby on Rails is was the most dominant player for some time from an MVC perspective. But there's stuff like PHP related stuff like Cake and stuff like that, and so it's kind of weird because it seems like Electron kind of smashes everything down into one piece. From a developer's perspective, what I see people trying to do is trying to implement models, views, and controllers. And so when I look at something like React, I think of it as more of a view component. And so a couple of things you mentioned, I think of those as views. So I try to, even though it's not exactly an MVC framework, that's why I still try to compare it to. And so some of the language so let me try to repeat the question a little bit. I'm sorry, I'm talking and y'all might not have heard it. So the question was, from a DevOps and developer perspective, how do you look how do you compare and contrast Electron to things like React and things of that nature? Is that kind of what the question was? Yeah. So I would say that what's cool about everything you mentioned, the big picture is everything works with Electron. That's the big takeaway. And so right now, I can tell you on our front end, we're using on the front end, we're using jQuery, native JavaScript, and materialized CSS. So that's our front end. So and so React, on how that goes is you could actually just substitute jQuery and all that stuff out with React. So it's like trying to still have that division. And even though we use that NEDB, which is equivalent to Mongo, pure JavaScript related database. What you I did you can do stuff like persistent cross-site scripting and stuff like that. So you still have all the same issues from the full stack thing. So if you put it into the database, pull it back out, execute JavaScript, you got shells all day. So I think that it's kind of like it's pretty much full stack in like a little bitty container, and that's kind of how I view it.
Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you very much, Marcus.
Thank you.
So got a few more minutes to get back to you, so y'all have a great day. Thanks for coming.